Starting lineup, uniforms, and apparel present the WOA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. Hello once again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here, the host of the WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. It's great to be back with you guys once again. Thank you to Mitch Scott, the presenting sponsor from Starting Lineup, uniform and apparel. Great to have him on board with us, and we appreciate everything he does. It's a new day, a new week, Monday, June the 8th. We have a great slew of guests coming up on the podcast. We're going to go over those with you right now. Coming up on the podcast this upcoming Wednesday, we have Matt Crane and Tyler Ryan from the Lucknow Lancers. That goes on Wednesday. On Friday, a particularly special episode. It's a all-goalie feature. We have Greg Dodds, Tommy Lee, and Jeff Flagler coming up on the podcast this upcoming Friday. The following week, on the 15th, it'll be Brad Craven, the trainer from the Minto 81s. On the 17th, Matt Slotwinski and Jeremiah Goodacre from the Petrolia Squires come on board. We have slotted in two Friday, not this upcoming Friday, but the following Friday on the 19th. We had Edward Davey and Chris Greer coming up from the Shelburne Muskies. The following week, slated in, is Tim McNaughton, the coach, general manager of the Milverton Four-Wheel Drives. Then on the 26th, so 3 Fridays from now, we have Adam Kowalik and Tyler Harrison coming up from the Minto 81s. At the end of the month, we also have Mitch Scott from Starting Lineup Uniform and Apparel coming on. He'll be on the 29th. We're looking for a guest for the 24th of June. So if you're interested in that, by all means, drop me a line and we'll get you on here and get you on talking hockey. Really great guest coming up on the program today. He plays for the Milverton Four-Wheel Drives, or he did play for the Milverton Four-Wheel Drives last season. He wore number 28. He only played in 4 full games, and a 5th that was derailed by injury put his season to bed, but he's still got a lot to say about the game. He runs his own podcast, and I'm really looking forward to having him on. I'm going to introduce him right now. Like I said, number 28 of the Milverton Four-Wheel Drives. His name is Brad Krysko. We are pleased to be joined at this time by our guest. He is number 28 from the Milverton Four-Wheel Drives. His name is Brad Krysko. Welcome, Brad. Welcome to the podcast, pal. It's great to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Right on, man. First question I got for everybody is, with COVID hitting, it's been a rough couple months for the last for people over the last little bit here. How have things been for you? How are you doing with everything? And, now that there's light at the end of the tunnel, how are things going?
Things went well for me. I have two little ones at home. So being home for a couple months to spend extra time with them was great. My work still kept paying me, so I didn't have to worry about any of that. My wife was already on maternity leave. So thankfully we were two of the lucky ones that didn't have any financial stress attached to it. And then again, I've got a 4-year-old and a 7-month-old. So getting all the extra time with them was nothing to complain about.
Right on. That's great, man. So do you have a new one on the way then? Is that what I gather?
No, we're done at 2. I'm busy enough. So yeah, the 7-month-old, he's the end of the line.
Right on. But everybody's happy and healthy. That's good news.
Oh yeah, we're doing great.
Good. Now, I recognize that for this past season was a little bit tough for you. I mean, I noticed you got into 5 games, but part of the season was derailed by a rather significant injury. You want to talk to us about that?
Sure. This season it was a weird journey. Just even me ending up playing senior AA hockey this year was a bit of a minor miracle, but so first 4 games for me was just a lot of getting my feet wet, getting used to the new pace of play, getting used to the league in general. Because as of a year and a half ago, I had never even heard of the league, so I didn't know what I was really getting into. And then as soon as I started getting comfortable, we had a game up in Lucknow, and I don't even know what happened. There was just kind of like I was the 3rd man into a net front scramble, and all of a sudden I'm just being kind of spun. I guess a guy ran into the back of my right shoulder, and popped it right out of place. So dislocated it twice actually, because we put it back in on the bench and then it popped right back out on the bench.
Hey.
And then ended up just going to the hospital, getting it wrapped up, and I was stuck in a sling for a month, and then pretty immobile for another 2.
Wow, man, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Hey, it's hockey; it happens.
Now, so with that being said, like obviously I understand that playing in this league there are risks, right? I mean, is that something that even you were going in preparing for? Like when it came to the prospect of playing in this league, was it something that you expected, or do you think maybe that's what attributed to the injuries, that you weren't necessarily expecting what happened?
Oh no, I was expecting it. So I mean, I'm 5'9", a buck 75. I'm not exactly a physical force on the ice.
Right.
So I knew, and from having a bunch of friends play in the league, I knew what I was getting into, and I was totally fine with that. My first shift in my first game against Elora, I got absolutely rocked trying to do a stupid behind the back pass. So I got my wake up call really quickly. But the funny thing is, before this, I hadn't played any kind of body contact hockey in 15 years.
Wow.
So it was definitely going to feel new again, even though I knew exactly what I was getting into.
Right. Now, so when it comes to, like, that's the thing about this league, is that you got to be careful out there because everybody's got families to go home to, jobs to go to on Monday, the whole nine. I mean, how did that affect your outside life, outside of the game? Like, did you have to miss work? Like, how much of a struggle was it for you outside of the game, despite, like, given the injury?
Thankfully for work, I'm a manager, so I have the ability to tell other people to do things while I was in the sling. So it didn't affect me at work too much. The funny story and unfortunate timing of the injury was I had actually missed our 2 previous games against Shelburne and Petrolia
Okay.
because my son had just been born. So I had
Oh,
a
wow.
new one on the way when my wife went into labor.
Right.
We had the little one. It was great. The game against Lucknow, where the injury happened, was my first game back in, I think it was about 2.5 weeks, and it was 30 seconds into the first shift of that game.
No way.
So yeah, we drove down. My wife's got family in Kincardine, so we brought the whole family down. I was gonna play the game, then we were gonna go over, have a couple drinks with their family, stay the night there, come home the next day. And so yeah, injury happens. So they're all at her father's house, my father-in-law's, having drinks while I'm in the ER at Kincardine getting checked out. But so work-wise, it didn't affect me. But I had a newborn. My son was
Oh, man.
9 days old when my shoulder went out, so I had to be a father to a kid who can't do anything for himself for a month in a sling, which was fun. Thankfully, my wife's a champ, so she helped out a ton. So it wasn't too much stress on me, thankfully.
Oh yeah, no, that, I mean, you can't say enough about spouses and how critical they can be in terms of raising a family, no question. But especially given your situation with the injury, I can't imagine that got any easier. From the time that you played, like, I mean, I know you didn't get into a ton of games, but what was it that you took away from the games that you did get in? Like, did you generally enjoy your time last season with Milverton?
Oh yeah, it was the most fun I've ever had playing hockey because I played single A, double A, triple A hockey all the way up until I was 15 years old, but then I just stopped. I
Right.
rode the beer league circuit after that. So playing all that, like, you can be good in beer leagues, but I always call that you're not good in real life. So I ended up getting into this league by accident. A friend of mine invited me out to an open skate that Tavistock actually was having.
Okay.
That got me an invite to camp. Didn't stick with Tavistock. They had a full roster, which was
Right.
fine, but they put in a good word for me over at Milverton, so I went and skated for them a couple times, got in. I was having a blast through that whole process because even just the open skates and the tryouts and all that were some of the fastest, best hockey I've ever played. And then getting into actual games was amazing. Like the speed of it, the competitiveness. The thing for me that really, I'm not going to say caught me by surprise, but I was very impressed, was just how smart a lot of these players were. Like, you go to any crappy beer league and the player with the puck's going to make the wrong play 90% of the time, right? So it's
Right.
just chaos out there. So actually
Sure.
getting to play in a proper system, watching guys make good plays at high speeds, and
Yeah.
then myself trying to keep up with it, it was amazing. It was the most fun I've ever had playing hockey, and I can't wait to get back there and do it again next year.
Yeah, no, I can still I can relate to everything you're saying, man. So sounds so funny in terms of what I've been saying for in my personal story. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about me. But no, okay. So you like you say, you toiled in the beer league circuit, and then all of a sudden it was this double this senior league experience. Why make the jump? Why all of a sudden? Was there an itch that just needed to be scratched? What was it?
Yeah, we'll say the itch needed to be scratched, but I like to think I have the classic small guy disease. I always feel the need to prove myself, to prove I can.
Right.
Honestly, just even getting into this league was just a goal of mine. Just to, can I hang with these guys? Because I how many players in this league didn't play junior, didn't play some kind of professional hockey, didn't play college hockey? I can't be more than one of a handful, I would
Yeah,
imagine. So
there's not many.
I wanted to be that guy to not only make this league, but then once I got there and got up to speed, start contributing a little bit. And that was the unfortunate part, because my last game against Durham before the injury was the first game where I really felt comfortable with the
Right.
pace. Not that I played poorly in those first 3 games. I had a couple goals and assists. I was doing all right, but like I
Yeah.
felt like I had got it, if
Right.
that's the right word. So, and then I was going into that game against Lucknow like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have a big night tonight, and then 30 seconds in, it's done. So again, step one for me, I accomplished, was prove you can make this league and hang in this league. So going
Right.
into next season now, my goal is going to be, I want to be a contributor in this league, and I don't want to just take up ice time. I want to, be a reason Milverton jumps a few spots in the standings.
Right. No, absolutely. Everybody wants to prove their worth. They don't want to be just a guy that's along for the ride and not really getting a chance to contribute. I mean, I think that goes a long way in a personal for a person to have that effect on the game, is to be able to contribute at some level. So once you had the injury, you healed up. What happens after that? Did the season, or sorry, the injury didn't derail the whole season for you, did it?
Oh yeah, no, my season was done, and I knew that very shortly after, because there was a lot of damage, because I guess the way it popped out and where it popped out was a little worse than a normal dislocation. So there was a lot of
Okay.
tearing with the ligaments and tendons surrounding it. The first clue when I went to the specialist, as soon as I told him it went out,
Yeah.
we put it back in on the bench, and then just by moving my arm around, it went out again. I could see his face just go, oh yeah, that's not good. So I had the meeting with a specialist. I think it was like 2 days after the injury. He's like, yeah, you're gonna have to be a sling in a month. Any kind of like real physical activity in 2.5, 3 months is optimistic.
Right.
I had got back on the ice, I want to say early to mid February, just like some pickup around town and some private ice time with a couple buddies, just to get the shoulder moving again,
Right.
which was good. So by the time, playoffs rolled around, I had known there was no coming back at that point. But
Right.
so it just became rehab, which was probably the biggest downfall of the COVID thing, because I
Sure.
had just finished the mobility part of my physio right when everything shut down. So I got the mobility and the movement's great, but it's still really weak compared to the other shoulder, because
Right.
all the gyms and everything shut down right as soon as I was
Of course.
able to start strengthening it back up. So I've been kind of limited to do some body weight stuff to make it, at least functionally strong again.
Yeah, I get it, man, and I get it. So how's the shoulder doing now? Like, are you doing okay nowadays?
Oh yeah, I'm like 98% pain free in it at this point. Range of motion actually came back way better than even the doctors and the physio thought it would,
Okay,
which
good.
was great. So right now for me, it's just strengthening it. As if I can get it back up to strength by September, October, it'll be like it never happened until
Right
it
on.
goes out
That's
again.
that's that's great news, man. I'm happy to hear that. So were you able to at least stick along for Milverton's drive in the drive is pun intended, in the A playoffs there. Like, were you able to follow along with their journey there, or what?
Oh yeah, I was following along with everything. It had to be online because, unfortunately for me, my day with my physio was actually Fridays after work, which was
Of
when a lot
course.
of our games were. So I didn't actually get out to nearly as many games as I would have liked after, just because newborn life. I'm not
Sure.
going to drive 2 hours to watch a game if we're out in Saugeen or something like that.
I understand.
But yeah, and then my physio overlapped with a bunch of games, so it really sucked because you get that itch to get back on the ice. You want to go out there and at least watch, be in the arena, be around the guys, But it is what it is. At least, like I said, I had the kids at home to keep me busy.
Do you think that if you had to if you had to play predictor, do you think Milverton had a shot at taking down Tavistock in that A final had it gotten underway?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Milvey, even last year before I got there, they turned it on in the playoffs. They just know how to get it done. Brucey is always strong in net. I mean, we got our top three lines of forwards are ridiculous. They produce a ton of offense. So I think in a 7-game series, we had a great shot.
Yeah. No, I think it would have been an unbelievable series, and I was really disappointed that it didn't come to fruition because I really would have liked to have seen how it would have gone down. So again, I know you only got into a few games, but who impressed you the most on the Milverton roster last year?
Oh man, I'd be remiss if I didn't pick my buddy, but he was I think the leading scorer this year, Evan Bueller. I've actually been playing ball hockey with Buells in the summer for a few years now, so I got to know him and Alex Utley pretty well through that. So even seeing Buells out there, you knew he was going to contribute, and then you come out and watch him in Senior A, and the dude knows how to score. It's impressive to watch.
Right on, right on. And who did you find yourself most paired up on the ice there when you did get out? Who are you playing with the most?
Oh God, I kind of bounced around the third and fourth line. So I played a lot of guys. I played with Vinny a lot, Mike Vitelli. Last couple games there was with Mucky, Brody Muckler.
Yep.
Played a few games with Goran. And beyond that, yeah, it was just kind of a bit of a rotation because first few games, obviously, they don't know a lot about me.
Right.
We had a lot of new guys on the team this year, so there was a lot of line juggling trying to figure out who fit where. So I don't think I
Sure.
played on the same line back-to-back games.
Fair enough. I did enjoy the one and only time that I did get to watch you guys play when I came down to Milverton to do a game out there between the 81s and the Drives. I don't believe you were in the lineup then at that point. I think you might have been gone by then. But like the one thing that I found particularly interesting, and I don't know how this works when it comes to actually playing on the Milverton ice, is that it's got to be distracting playing with those curling rinks. Like
You would think so, honestly, and you always notice it in warm up, but as soon as the game starts, you're not paying any attention to that. I don't know about everybody else, but as soon as the game gets going, I'm locked in. I don't notice anything that's happening outside of the play.
fair enough, fair enough. It was just interesting, at least from my vantage point, to try and figure out, where the face-off circles were as opposed to the curling rink circles. It's just bizarro. I've never seen anything like it.
Just use them as a point of reference for where to shoot from.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I'm not certain, but I think Milverton also that ice is probably one of the bigger ones in the whole league.
Yeah, it's a big surface, which for the way I play is definitely a huge advantage because I'm a puck possession guy. I can move around the ice pretty quick. Like I said, the physical battles in the corner and the open ice hits, not my thing. So the more room I have to move around, the more effective I can be.
Fair enough. So being a family man, what's it like being a player playing in front of the young ones that you got and just being able to go out and have be that hero to them that they could see you in that light? What does that mean to you?
Oh, I don't think my daughter thinks I'm very good at all, but no, she sees the Red Wings and she gets excited. She sees me and she's wondering when the next Red Wings game is. But no, it's great. My son, obviously, he's way too young to know what's going on, but my daughter loves it. She's obsessed with hockey. We have her out playing right now on her inlines all the time. In the winter, we have her on skates all the time. She came to three of my 4 games. Three of my 5 games.
Right.
before. I actually have a funny story from so my first game was in Elora,
Okay.
and so my wife, my daughter, and my father-in-law came down to watch that game because obviously, they
Big
thought it was a
deal.
pretty big deal that I was
Right.
playing in this game. So first shift, like I said, I got rocked, and it was on the glass 5 feet in front of them. They were right there for that. I looked at them from the bench, and they had this look like, "What are you doing, you idiot?" But later in the game, so I ended up getting my first goal that game. And I guess my wife was telling me a story after the game that there was a bunch of kids running around from a couple of the players from Elora.
Okay.
And so my daughter missed my goal completely because she's playing with all the kids.
Sure.
My wife caught a moment where my daughter was calm, told her I had scored. And then my daughter apparently ran right back to all the other kids. My daddy scored. My daddy scored. My daddy scored. And was bragging about it and
That's
describing the
awesome.
goal that she didn't even see. So it was funny. I had a good laugh at that.
So when you were told that, like, do you remember kind of like take me through the emotion of that? Like, when your wife tells you, your daughter's reaction and what she does, like, what does that mean to you? Like, how does that make you feel? Like, that's got to make you feel pretty good.
Oh, that's everything. Like there's nothing more important to me than my kids. So anytime they get any happiness in life, it makes me happy. But when it's as a direct result of something I did, there's no better feeling than that.
Oh, I know. Isn't that just incredible for sure? So now, okay, so what is like now that you've gotten, like I say, you got 5 games in, it was derailed because of injury. Like, is there a sense of next year or when the season comes to fruition again, depending on when and if that happens? Is there a sense of redemption that you have at this point, like unfinished business? Like you got started, you got your feet wet, you were just getting comfortable, and bam, it was taken away. Is there a little bit of extra motivation then for the next time you do hit the ice?
Well, I'm just the type of person that's usually ultra motivated for anything I do. I don't know, Michael Jordan disease, just hyper competitive, even though I don't show it on the outside because I'm pretty composed generally. But
Right.
yeah, it was, I went into this season with a ton to prove, but I went into the season very green. Like I said, it took me a couple games to really acclimate to the league.
Right.
So now that I know what I'm getting into, I'm coming in more motivated than ever to, like I said, not just get a regular spot on the team, but contribute, put some points on the board, help the team get a bunch of W's, just
Right.
come in. I know Milverton, we had a great playoff this year, but it wasn't a great regular season. So I'd
Sure.
like to turn that around and go in and get a bit more home ice in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, that would be ideal for sure. That's definitely helpful. But what I found interesting, like you said, you had a lot to prove coming in. Was that something that you put on yourself, or is that something you felt from others? Like, where does that come from?
No, that's all me. Like I said, I'm hyper competitive, and nobody's a bigger critic to me than myself. So, I'm the type of guy I overthink every play. I could probably, I only played 4 full games with the team, and I could probably play you back almost every play I made in those 4 games. So
Right.
yeah, no, I hold myself to a very, very high standard. So again, as a beer league idiot coming into whatever semi-pro hockey,
Right.
yeah, no, I held a huge, huge commitment to myself in order to, like I said, not just play, but excel.
Yeah, no, I get that, man, and I can definitely appreciate that. That's huge. So I want to talk to you about your podcast that you run. I want you to just kind of divulge to us a little bit what it's all about. I know it's about the Red Wings, so feel free to just gush over them more. That's fine. I'll give you the opportunity. I just want to know what it's all about.
Oh, nothing to gush about with the Red Wings these days. Honestly, it's a lot of yelling, crying, and screaming. No, it's just a couple of friends of mine here in the KW area. We're all Red Wings fans. We got sick of talking about the Leafs over and over again, so I threw out a post online to see if anybody would be down to do a podcast, and sure enough, 2 guys responded. So that
Nice.
started February 2015. So, like I said, just over 5 years ago. We talk about the entire NHL, but it's 50% to 75% each episode, the Red Wings.
Right.
We go twice a week. We've made a huge effort to get as many interesting guests on as we can, because I know people can only take so much of my voice. So we've had we've had Nick Lidstrom on, we've had Ron McLean,
No way.
Darren McCarty. Yeah, oh yeah, we've had dozens upon dozens of amazing guests.
Wow.
To help fill the time. But yeah, it's any typical team podcast. We just like to think we tend to be a little more entertaining than other podcasts.
Hey man, you're putting me in the ground if you're more entertaining than me, dude. I'm trying.
It's mostly the other two. I just, say stupid things to let them loose on.
Hey man, it's you know what? As a host, you have only so much responsibility, and you can only carry it so much.
Oh, exactly. If you have a guest on and they sit there silent the entire time or give one-word answers, it's going to be a very short interview.
Oh man, it's so tough. Like I know there's a saying for it, but I can't think of it right now. But anyways,
up the creek without a paddle is how
sure,
it is.
Something like that. Can you? Okay, so then who? Like, give me a funny story of a particular memorable guest that you had on your podcast.
Okay, so this is maybe my favorite story that's ever been told on our podcast.
Yeah,
so I actually have a friend of mine. His name's Steve Glynn. He works for Sportsnet, big Leafs guy. Okay. He's been doing Leafs YouTube videos after every game for I don't even know how long, over a decade now. So he's got
wait, what's his name? Steve
Glynn. Well, his screen name is Steve Dangle.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about, dude.
Okay, yeah. So
I'm a Leafs fan. Come on, you know this, right?
So I've been friends with him for years and years and years. And
no way. That's wild.
So he's been on our podcast now about a half dozen times. I think I've been on a couple of his LFRs, but he told this story about a game in Barrie. It was, I can't remember what year, but the OHL finals between Barrie and Windsor, when Alex Pietrangelo was on Barrie and Taylor Hall was on Windsor.
Right.
The game was in Barrie. They did a promotional night where they handed out like these tiny sample boxes of mac and cheese. So, when Barrie scores a goal, he can shake it, makes a lot of noise, right? They didn't see any potential problems with this, except the game went to overtime.
Of course.
And Taylor Hall scored for Windsor and Barrie. And Steve was at the game, and the way he describes it is as soon as that goal went in and you looked up in the stands, you know that scene from 300 with the arrows?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, where just so many arrows that blacks out the sun. Imagine that, but mac and cheese boxes.
No.
And there was a lady standing next to him in the tunnel as he was describing it, who I guess it was her job to do promotions, and she just ran away like half crying, saying, "Oh my God, I specifically told them this wouldn't happen," and gone.
That's great, man.
Yeah, to me, that's my favorite story that's ever been told on our podcast.
That's a pretty good one, dude. That's pretty good.
I just disappointed that the best story didn't come from, one of the hosts, but whatever.
Sure. So how long you been a Red Wings fan?
Oh, my whole life. I can't even remember what made me start cheering for them. I was too young.
And probably by far your favorite Red Wing ever?
Stevie.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. I want to ask you specifically his goal in the double overtime against St. Louis in the 96 playoffs against John Casey.
Yep.
Do you remember where you were when it happened? Do you remember that very moment?
Oh yeah. Living room couch in my parents' house, because I was almost 9 years old at the time. So it's one of my earlier hockey memories, but yeah, you don't forget that goal. I remember just even as a 9-year-old sweating on the couch in double overtime of Game 7. That was a level of anxiety my little brain wasn't used to.
Well, and that series had everything. Like, talk about all the star power in the world, right? Like, you had Gretzky, Hull, Oates on the St. Louis team, and Pronger, McInnes, and all the star power that they loaded up for, going for a run. And then you had this Red Wings team come in and it's just wild.
Oh yeah, that was the year they set the all-time regular season wins record. So as loaded as St. Louis was, they probably shouldn't have even been in that Game 7. So
right,
yeah, it was the mid '90s was a crazy time to become a Red Wings fan, because it was just first year I can really remember watching hockey was '93. when the Leafs
Okay.
put the Red Wings out in Game 7.
Right.
And then the next year they get next year they get bounced in the first round by San Jose in this massive upset.
Oh, yeah.
Next,
Was that, oh, man. Pat
San
Fluid?
Jose. That was Jamie Baker who scored the winning goal late in the third.
Jamie Baker. That's right. What a name
So,
drop.
oh, yeah. Like I said, my memory's, it's a
it.
problem. And then 95, we finally make it all the way to the finals. I'm over the moon. Like my little hockey brain's happy for the first time, and then they get swept.
By the Devils.
Yep. Then they have the record-setting season. All right, this is the year we finally win the cup. Put out by Colorado in 6 games. That was the series where Claude Lemieux rearranged Chris Draper's face.
I remember.
So, yeah, why I stuck with the Red Wings through this as a tiny kid, I have no damned idea. But, hey, it paid off.
If you would have jumped ship, I don't think anyone would have let you hear the end of it.
Yeah, fair enough, because then back-to-back cups, 3 cups in 6 years. It worked out in the end, so I'm happy I stuck with it.
Now, besides Yzerman's moment, do you have a favorite that's tops that, or is that tops?
Oh, no. My favorite moment, is gotta be Darren McCarty's cup-winning goal in 97. Not only because it was the goal to win the Red Wings' first Stanley Cup in 42 years, but the way he scored it and the fact that it was – yeah, and the fact it was Darren McCarty who turned you on him. I remember even when we had him on our podcast, I asked him about that. I'm like, you were a grinder. You don't dangle people. What was going through your mind when you got that puck coming through the neutral zone on him? He's like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking. I just did something, and then it was in the net.
That's awesome, man. So, so this podcast is obviously going well for you. Do you see it continuing for the foreseeable future? How tough is it right now in the times that it is?
It's tough in terms of content, but the one way we've got lucky is because the Red Wings are one of the bottom 7 teams, so they're not playing another hockey game till December, January. So all Red Wings fans have for content right now is the draft and the draft lottery. Other than that, we're it. So all our listeners have stuck around because if they need their Red Wings fix, there isn't really a whole lot of places to turn right now. So it's been fine. I wouldn't say it's hurt us. I wouldn't say it's helped us, but it's holding steady. So hopefully when hockey starts up again, or the Red Wings hopefully win the draft lottery, that'll give us a couple months worth of content.
There you go. I mean, that getting that Lafreniere kid could really turn Red Wings fortunes around, I'll say.
Yeah, hopefully in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, and the Red Wings seem to have no trouble with that. They've always drafted well, you know that.
Oh yeah.
So now in terms of getting back to the senior circuit here, is there a level of concern that you have that the season may not happen at all next year?
Oh yeah, I have no idea what's going to go on. I mean, it would be incredibly disappointing if I finally work my way up to some proper hockey and then it's just gone. So I hope there's a season. I'm hoping with phase 2 opening everything up on Friday that it goes better than I think it will. Because I'm dying to get back on the ice in general. I've got a buddy who has a connection at the Zone, so I was able to get out on the ice a couple times last week, but it's not the same. I've got this year, I guess the term scratching the itch will be more apt than last year, because last year I had the taste.
Right.
Now I want it.
No, so absolutely.
It's like giving a drug addict that sample. Now I have it. Now I'm hooked. Now I need it. So yeah. There better be a season this year, or else I'm gonna lose my mind.
I love it, man. That's just the greatest thing ever right there. And I can appreciate your passion for the game. I can appreciate your stance on, how this league is so important to you, how highly you speak of it. You're a model example of this game, and I really do hope to see you more down the line in this league, because the league needs more players like yourself, and I mean that honestly. Killer with the podcast. Well done with that. Keep up the good work on that. I'll make sure to subscribe and I'll check some of them out. I haven't done so yet, but I have been meaning to, so don't take it personally. But I do want to thank you for coming on and talking with us about Milverton, your injury, because that was really important for me to talk to you about that, because it is such a big concern in this game. And like I say, I really do appreciate you coming onto the podcast with us and talking hockey. So thanks a lot, Brad.
Yeah, anytime. I appreciate it.
All right. And once again, we want to thank our guest, Brad Krysko, for coming on from the Milverton Four Wheel Drives. Great talking with him, great conversation, just a real stand-up dude. And yeah, check out his podcast. If you like the Red Wings, it's all about the Red Wings and the NHL and everything like that. And it sounds like it's really an interesting watch. So make sure to check that out. One final note, I've just put up a poll on my Twitter, or on the WOAA Twitter, that asks if any of you guys that are involved in the WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League, or anybody else who follows, if you are interested in doing a league-sanctioned golf tournament. I want to know if you're interested, simple yes or no. I want to see if there's enough interest to put into motion doing a golf tournament for the league. I think it would be wonderful to be able to do this for the league, given the uncertain times, given the fact that the season ended so abruptly last year, and given the fact that we don't know when a season is going to come to fruition the next season. So to be able to get together and do something like this would be really, really fun, I believe, and would get everybody out and getting them to do something together. So, if you want to put in, it could be really interesting. You get foursomes from different teams and get them to battle it out that way. I think that would be really interesting. So, like I say, simple yes or no. I just want to know if you guys are interested in seeing that come to fruition. So check that out and get your votes in, and I'll make sure to take a look at that. But yes, so once again, I want to thank our guest, Brad Krysko. I want to thank Mitch Scott from Starting Lineup, Uniform and Apparel. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching yet another episode of the WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. I am Andrew Rogers, the host. This was episode number 15. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.